The issue of prisons as well, biological men going into female prisons.
But they're no longer biological men.
They're no longer biological men. Okay,
they're
fine.
Women.
They're women.
Even if they haven't transitioned, they're still women.
They're still-
What? What? Oh no! Please, please, please. Yo.
Prisons, the issue of prisons as well, biological men going into female prisons.
But they're no longer biological
Men.
They're no longer biological men. Okay,
they're
fine.
Women.
They're women.
Even if they haven't transitioned, they're still women.
They're still-
What? What? Oh no! Please, please, please. That means if they literally a man with a no.
For women.
Like,
Yeah.
if they're transgender and they haven't transitioned medically,
Yeah.
they're still.
How? Bro, that means what? That's stupid. That's like bro. That's like saying, yeah. That's like saying you got a BMW, yeah, and you put a Mercedes sticker over it. No, actually, that's a bad analogy, bro. That's like saying, yeah. That's bro. It's simple. It's like saying you're white. Sorry, it's like saying you're black when you're white.
Women.
So would you have said in this instance, feelings trump facts? Would you have, if someone was to say to you, what about biology, and they play that card, would you have said, no, what matters is what someone's feeling rather than actual fact, like biological science?
That's
Yeah, I think to some degree, because human emotions are incredibly complex, and
Sure.
the idea of identity is incredibly complex.
Yeah.
And I think takes precedent over just facts on a paper, I think. And,
Sure.
you know, debating scientific facts.
Oh, we're here at Sussex University today. We made a special effort to come down to what is called one of the wokiest universities that we've got. We're here to see just what's happened with our institutions. We're going to be interviewing students to find out just how woke they are, the specific topics to do with gender and with transgender. As you can see, I'm in my Christmas jumper. We're ready to rock and roll. Let's find out just how mental they are. Are there more than two genders? Let's start off with that.
Yeah.
There are more than two genders?
Yes, of course.
Of course. The conviction, I love it. So, help me out here. What are they? Can we talk about them? Can we name them?
Well, there's
I love how they don't say straight male now. They say cis or something. Cis male.
obviously the
What
binary
is that?
male and female, if you want that, and then there's some people that are non-binary, and then
So we know about the two, but binary.
yeah, and then non-binary. There's some people might be gender fluid or
There's
agender.
agender.
Gender fluid, agender. What's agender?
It's where you're outside of gender, so you don't really like identify with any gender, and it's
Yeah.
just some days you feel like you.
Oh,
may-
sorry, agender. Oh, I see. Like, okay.
Sometimes I feel like a Mexican. No, sometimes, bro, I'm half black, half white. Sometimes I feel black. Sometimes I feel white. On the other day, I feel white. What?
So, what does that look like then? Oh, wow. So, in practical application in life, just in general, what does that look like?
I don't.
Anything. It can be whatever you want. Like, I don't think gender needs to
I don't think that's fair.
have a specific look. If you want to identify a certain way, then identify a certain way. As long as, like, I'm going to be respectful of you no matter how you look.
But would you support kids transitioning?
Yeah, especially because most puberty blockers are reversible. So if they do change their mind, there's no actual harm to the person's body. Obviously, I think surgery-wise, that should be something discussed at a later age. But transitioning socially, there's no issue with it. And
Transitioning socially being not actual surgery, but in terms of gender fluidity.
yeah, and just like changing your name, changing your pronouns, like whatever that may be to a person. I think at whatever age, as long
We
as
get to experiment with fashion. We get to experiment with sexuality. Why can't we experiment with what gender?
Oh, shut up now. We get to experiment with sexuality. We get to experiment with clothes, and you're comparing clothes to gender. What the? Which cannot be reversible. I don't get it. It is an irreversible thing. You are either born this or born that. You get me? Like,
gender we are. It's
So fashion, I've heard this before, it's quite interesting. So fashion and other such social norms and values isn't the same as the gender. There's a higher step up, I would have said. Would you have said that? Would you agree it's the same? Like what drink I choose to drink in a pub isn't the same as whether I should become a different gender.
but at the same time,
That's
it
exactly-
should be. It should be just accepted to that level. It's like, oh, they've decided that they want to be male today. Well, okay, that's their choice.
What line do we draw with regards to children? So can a 6-year-old decide that it's the wrong gender?
I mean,
Once they can talk, once they can communicate, obviously.
6-year-olds have some of the best ideas in the world. If you've ever had a conversation with a 6-year-old, it's the most
And
amazing
the
thing.
idea and concept of gender isn't like 6-year-olds are able to grasp that concept, and if they
What?
are able to say something's wrong
Yeah.
with how I am choosing to be presented, like
I was playing Skylanders at 6.
6-year-olds aren't stupid,
Yeah.
and I think it's like
If
why
we
not?
can get labelled with terms such as tomboys as kids, why
Yeah.
can't it just be more expressed? Actually, I think I feel more like a boy.
Because you're a girl.
Because there's
Right.
no way for anyone to define how I feel as a female may be different from how Alara feels.
Yeah.
So it could be just depending on the person.
Do you see any negative consequences, negative ramifications? Do you see any, as a liberal checkpoint, do you see any consequences of this line that we're going down? Just in terms of a checkpoint, guys, I've heard what you said, but do you see any, there's always good and bad to things. Do you see any negative consequences, outcomes?
I think one negative is some people may see it as a bit of a trend, and they may just I don't want to what's the word?
You don't want to missell your own
I
idea.
don't want to disqualify anybody's identity or sexuality, but some people may just go
The they, them is a trend. Pronouns. I
because
see that everywhere now.
it's such a hot topic in a sense.
It's trending, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, because as a generation, we are a lot more open about it, but because of that, people may attempt to jump on a bandwagon. Does that make...
Well, the head of the Labour Party say that you can't say that only women
God, that's a lot of words. Yes, please.
have cervix. That's a big message to 65 million people, isn't it? So people are going to hijack that, aren't they, for the wrong reasons? Some people will use that. Not everyone's as good and as benevolent as we are they?
I guess, but I just personally think there isn't even if it is a trend, who cares that much?
Yeah, they jump on it as a trend. Haven't just said what I said. It's still their right to explore. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's if they jumped on it for the trend for the wrong reasons, it's a bad thing.
Sure. So that's one. That's
If it's a trend, it means that people won't care about it in a couple years from now. That's what a trend is. It's a trend. Having a trendy thing is bad.
That's one possible negative. What about women coming away from gender and about supporting trans? What about trans rights in sport? So female decide to become a male and then competing in female sports.
Well, we're both on the rugby team.
Yeah.
So
That doesn't. You didn't.
I
What, you
have
play against men?
no issues with it, because generally when most trans, especially trans women, are choosing to compete in sport, they've already gone through generally
No.
hormone replacement therapy. So their testosterone, which is, let's be honest, most people are talking about testosterone, their testosterone levels are already lower than many women may have.
Yeah.
So
But their bones, right? Aren't their bones just generally aren't men's bones heavier than women's? And their whole physique. You can't change
I honestly don't think there's much of an issue, because
What about the other way around then, when male goes to female? So a biological male transitions to a female.
this is gonna be interesting. A biological. She looks scared.
And competes in female.
yeah,
You said that. Sorry, you said there's lower testosterone levels.
because they've transitioned.
Sure, but they're still so they're not biologically male anymore, as far as you're concerned.
Well, they're not male. No,
Once they've
they're-
transitioned across.
Yeah, they're female. I don't think there's any reason for them not to be in sport.
So it's not a negative. That wouldn't be a negative.
No.
What about safe spaces for women and shared bathrooms and things like that? And
they're female.
So why would that matter then?
can you say?
They're identified as female. They believe they're female, so they're female.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Same-sex bathrooms, etc., etc. Prisons, the issue of prisons as well. Biological men going into female prisons.
But they're
But
no longer the biological men.
They're no longer biological men. Okay,
They're
fine.
women.
They're women.
Even if they haven't transitioned, they're still
What? Why are you closing it? I haven't been showered.
women.
They're still women.
I don't want to film it.
Cook then. You're not opening the window.
Like,
Yeah.
if they're transgender and they haven't transitioned medically,
Yeah.
they're still women.
They're still women.
They deserve, and they're going to, for starters, be put in a much worse place than they're put into male prisons, which is something that you see every day.
So women are.
Trans women, if they're stuck in male prisons, are put in a much worse position than anything that they could do.
Okay. Realistically, yeah. Why do you have to say if you're actually a woman, why do you have to say trans in front of it? If they're quote unquote a woman.
In women's prisons, due to the gender-based violence and anti-trans violence that they experience in prisons.
Okay. Well, I think that's pretty great. I really appreciate that, guys. And that's definitely the best. That's the best sort of interview that we could get. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll just ask you some straight
Oh, I thought he was gonna press them.
questions. Do you think that there are more than two genders?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. And could you name some of them for me?
Male, female, and then an umbrella of non-binary genders.
Oh, that's interesting. An umbrella of non-binary. But an umbrella, as you say, the umbrella. So there could be 50, 60, 100.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I
I love how you specifically targeted odd-coloured haired people because this instantly shows their political stance on 99% of the time. 6-year-olds have some of the best ideas in the world. I'm a father of 3 kiddos, with one of them being 6. Can't she wants to live in a house made out of pizza when she grows up.
see it splitting like sort of free in that way, but yeah, what do we know?
Oh, okay, fine. So, okay, that's pretty straight. So there's lots of different genders. Do you think people should be able to identify as any? It should be socially acceptable for people to identify as whatever they choose in terms of gender?
Yeah, I don't think it harms anybody if you don't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So live and let live, basically. So if I was to identify tomorrow as a female, if that's how I felt, and I'd been feeling like this for some years, you'd be okay with that. If we were friends, for example.
Absolutely, yep.
What about transgender and kids? Do you think that it's okay to be in pushing, branding, marketeering, any of the above, profiteering, even pushing the agenda of trans on children? Do you think that's okay?
I think the most important thing is if a kid speaks about their gender, then you listen to them and take them seriously, because that's proven to have better outcomes for that kid. So, if a kid wants to change their name, their clothes, hair,
No, I'm not letting. What?
or whatever, then do that, support them in that.
Of course, but those choices aren't the same as your gender, are they?
No, but if it's coming from a place where they're feeling bad about their gender, then that's fine.
So if a 30-year-old couple or a 40-year-old couple had an 8-year-old child, and that child completely unfiltered, on its own, of its own accord, through whatever it's seen and heard, said, "I want to be this," the parent should
It's
take
emotions.
action and
That's literally
essentially
pure emotions.
push the idea rather than disable it.
It's not so much pushing, listen to the kid, let them guide you in it. If they
Let them guide the parent.
yeah, for sure.
Okay. Thank you. That's great. That's very kind of
the way you just said, let them guide the parent.
you. Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. So the topic at
Another colour there.
the moment, so hence why we're at Sussex today, is transgender and the issue of transgender and rights and gender as well. So just ask you some straight questions.
Okay.
Do you think that there are more than two genders?
Well, I don't really think there are. Well, it's sort of a. I think gender's kind of a spectrum, kind of. I don't think it's like two separate things, if you know what I mean. I just think you sort of look how you want, sort of dress how you want, sort of thing.
But that's
Because
different.
If you think about
That's
it,
not
we're
gender.
when you're when you're born, you're already put in these sort of boxes,
Yeah.
and you have to either sort of follow that.
It's one
or
big
you-
stereotype.
Yeah, or you kind of think, oh, I'm not going to, or you sort of, you know.
I love how the whole thing of it, like a woman, a transgender woman being a man, like they don't take into account the facts, bro. Like I would actually listen if a scientist fully got into like a thing and he said a bunch of all this shit, saying, and he knew his shit about science and that, and about once you're a man you can never change, like you can never like change not to not be a man. I wonder if that's a thing. So I reckon it is, because the science tell otherwise. You get me? Especially when it comes to you being male or female, you're either a male or female. There's no, or a boy or a girl when you're born. There's no other way. It's just facts, and I feel like they're taking this thing is definitely like 100% have emotion, and you can't. Emotion is not relative. It's not a good source of getting your statistics, because it varies over time.
There's not, basically.
Yeah,
There's
so
not
so there are an indefinite number of genders.
Yeah,
So if I said there was 50 or 100, you'd say yeah.
yeah, but then not all people use like labels.
Yes,
Like,
yeah,
some
absolutely.
People just kind of.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, do it.
Could you name the genders? If you think there's more than two. The stereotypical two, if you think there's more.
I guess people use like, I don't know, non-binary, but that's, I guess if you're using non-binary, that says that gender is a binary. But technically it's not if you go by the sort of view that
It's a bit ironic, that one.
yeah, yeah. So I guess you can't really name it because some people don't go by labels. If you look in other cultures, like I can't remember what the tribe is, but
ironic.
there's certain tribes and stuff where they kind of have a third sort of gender or role, or they have like mixed
What,
kind
both?
of opinions of how
Both.
people should act and stuff.
Yeah, and we should probably look at where those tribes are and how they live, because it probably wasn't comparable with Western life and how we live. But I see your point. I'm conscious of time. Can I ask you on the
He's
subject
not being rude, but he's just saying it.
of trans activism? Do you think that we should be pushing children to transition to the opposite gender? Do you see any ethical or moral implications there?
I mean, I personally can't say anything because I've not got a child. I mean, I didn't go through that.
But your opinion as a voter in the UK matters.
Yeah. I mean, I can't.
Do you think we should let kids be kids, or do you think we should push it on them?
I don't think it's pushed on them. I think people that. I mean, I think most people who.
She's trying to not get cancelled. I'm joking. That's
I sort of like trans. They kind of know from like young age, and I feel like people who aren't trans, we can't fully kind of put ourselves in that position and say to them, oh, you can't transition or something, you can't do this.
So do you think it's possible to transition to a different sex?
I mean, it's hard because when you're young, your brain's not as sort of like developed and stuff.
You're not fully developed at 12, for example, as you are at 20.
No, but then you kind of know yourself better than what other people do, so it's kind of a sort of dilemma. I don't have a straight answer for that, honestly.
It's very difficult. Can I ask you a question? Do you know when you were a child, did you know what you wanted to be?
No.
I wanted to be. I know it sounds really cliche. I wanted to be a superhero, but it's a good job that I've grown up because
he's violating. How is he just putting it? Yo. Oh, there's no way just.
otherwise, if I wanted to transition to a superhero, I could go and jump off that roof, couldn't I?
Yeah. I think it's definitely.
Yo,
more
there's no
cultural
way he's
thing,
violating.
because if you look at other sort of, I don't know, like countries, they kind of view gender as like different.
And so it's completely unreal how grown adults can just repeat absolute nonsense without even thinking any of it. Oh, gee, actually, no. At six, what I was doing is I was eating ants, fam. I was eating spiders and picking their legs apart. I remember that. That's what I was doing. But what I'd do is I would like collect them on like my little like, I had like a play area. I'd collect them, and then I would like, I would take off their legs and I'll stack them in piles and I would eat it.
Different, and
Yeah.
I mean, even like families,
Chill,
because
chill.
I mean, I was sort of raised as quite a gender neutral. Like I was just sort of left to do what I wanted. Basically, I was allowed to play with like boys' toys.
Yeah, pink wasn't forced on you as a colour.
No, actually, my mum dressed me in sort of like blue stuff, and So I was personally raised as quite a kind of open-minded sort of person.
You were left to make up your own mind,
Yeah.
your own decision
Yeah.
about.
But then I know that not everyone gets that kind of upbringing, so it's kind of, it's very culturally kind of dependent, I think.
Do you just lastly, do you think that pushing marketeering, branding, profiteering of anything to do with the idea of trans and kids, do you think that's child abuse?
I don't know really.
Can an 8-year-old make its own decisions?
Yeah, well,
Them decisions are they're not realistic. They're based on emotion, especially at 8. 8 is crazy saying from young you nah man.
yeah. I think they can. Yeah, I guess. Again, it depends how they.
But I can't
kind
even
of
make
view
my own decision and I'm 19. Like, what?
That's sort of how they've been raised and what they kind of sort of view.
She's doing what they want to do, so... This is where she tells me she's a gender PhD student.
I'm not, but I do run LGBT.
Well, I do
This
I
one's
do
gonna
get
be
that
interesting.
point.
The uni aren't accepting that. Who the fuck is?
I'm talking about our institutions here, so
Yeah.
it's quite a big topic. So on that, it's very, very kind and very useful of you. Would you be able to name any genders for me? I mean, obviously I know about 2 of them.
So there's female.
This is where she tells me she's a gender
Male.
PhD student.
I'm not, but
I like
I do run LGBTQ events
Yeah, sure.
and safe spaces for everyone.
So yeah, go on then. So
female,
yeah,
male, non-binary,
yeah,
trans,
yeah.
students. There's so many more. I'm female identified myself, so
Yeah.
But
He's getting tired of her already. You see, this nigga said, yeah.
so I don't really feel like it's my place.
Sure.
But the thing is,
But you're allowed
like,
to do that though, right? You're allowed to identify as what you
Yeah,
want.
yeah,
If they can, you
exactly.
can. Do you see any potential consequences? Because there's consequences for everything.
Well, I think there's a lot of people that are angry because they don't understand.
So a lot of division, a lot of anger.
and division, it creates war,
It creates war.
and that is just not what it's about.
That's not what we want it to be about.
No, it's about community and respect and love for each other, and that's all it is.
And what
It's literally, bro, she's just explaining emotions, man. This is all emotion. It isn't nothing to do with facts. Oh, I feel like a butterfly today. I can be a butterfly. But the facts don't say you're a butterfly. You don't have wings. What?
about getting more specific and closing up now? I appreciate your time. What about the issue of safe spaces for women and bathrooms
It's important. It's important.
and women not wanting to be
But
with
trans
biological?
women are women.
Oh, I see. So so men wanting to become women who go through that process
Trans women.
are biological women. They can become biological women.
No, not biologically.
No, in terms of
But-
gender identification.
Gender identification. Trans women are women.
Yeah.
They have been women. So gender and sex.
How can they can identify as a woman, but they don't have to be a woman? They don't have to be biologically a woman. What?
Sex is a completely different
They're
thing.
2 different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And gender is what you identify as when, and that also
Social
cuts
construct.
it cuts out such a big group of people who, like
There's actually no way people would speak in this recklessly.
people that weren't assigned their right birth
Sure.
when they were born,
Yeah.
and it cuts out like them from the entire equation.
Would point would then that would transfer into sports as well, as far as you're concerned.
Yeah, I think
if so, for example, in contact sports, boxing, rugby, the really nasty stuff where we get hurt. Speaking from experience, that's you're completely fine with if a man identifies as a woman, if she's gone through whatever,
Trans women, yeah.
if whatever they've gone through, then they should be treated equally as that gender. And within all domains that we're referring to.
Yes.
Okay, I really appreciate your time.
No worries.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's just start by asking you: do you think there are more than 2 genders?
Yeah. Okay. But if you asked me this a year ago, I would say no.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's fair.
So coming,
A lot's
coming-
happened in a year.
Yeah, coming down to Brighton, actually, I've opened my mind to so many things, and I would say everyone has their right to be who they want to be.
Okay, so there's more than
one, yeah.
more than one, more
Yeah.
than two. Would you be able to name any of them that help someone educate someone like me, basically?
Oh God, it's like my exam question. Okay, so you have the male and the female, then you have the transgenders, and then you have the gender fluid.
Gender fluid.
Yeah. And I think there's one. Yeah, there's one more. It's like I can't really remember it right now. It's like in the back of my head.
Okay, but you've named 4.
Yeah, because in my class.
Oh, okay.
When we did the introduction and everyone said their pronouns, so some people will prefer to say.
Are you
they
made
and
to
them.
say that, or is it just accepted now?
No, it's just accepted because I'm black, and for a very long time we'll be fighting for our freedom as well, and the right to be who we are, and to have equality.
Yeah.
So I don't see any reason why I have to judge someone for being who they are.
You can relate to the.
Yeah.
So when I say movement, you're saying actually it's more like culture.
Culture, yeah.
You can relate to that.
Yeah.
So if we look at all societies throughout modern history, at some point there are there are huge volumes of demographics who at some point have either been penalised, persecuted, and there's millions of examples, aren't there? So what you're saying is that culturally you could align with that.
Yeah.
But do you see any negative outcomes or consequences for the direction we're headed in, where we start looking at how people can identify based on how they feel rather than, let's say, biological science or facts? Do you see any negative consequences?
I don't see any negative consequences. It's just like if anyone have a problem with it, it's just gonna be for themselves. Like, you don't have the right to decide for anyone. I don't see any negative impact. We're all fighting for equality, but I don't see why one person has to be superior than the other. If we're all equal, then there'll be.
He's not getting the point. This guy is smooth brain. There's no way you're comparing. No, man. This is bad.
Common ground for everyone, and we all can relate.
Do you think it's the same? Do you think we can draw the same parallel? The struggle for the black man, do you think that's the same as the struggle for the female trapped inside the male body? Are they not two very different struggles?
It's too different. I wouldn't say it's the same.
Because we're minimalising
Yeah.
what that particular demographic have been through by saying that. Because it's not the same.
It's not the same. It's not the same.
I take it you guys are students. Yeah. Super. So if I could just ask you some straight questions, would you have said there were more than 2 genders?
More than 2 genders. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And what about you, young lady? Would you have said
Yes.
more than 2 genders?
Yes.
Yes. I'm not particularly educated on the subject. Could you tell me the names of those genders?
I'm not too sure, but I guess there's obviously if you identify as a male, if you identify as a female, it's non-binary.
So male, female, non-binary. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, but that's as far as my knowledge goes, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about your good self?
I just know that people who identify as different genders have different pronouns as well, so they can use they them pronouns. Like non-binary would use that.
Yeah.
I'm not that educated either.
So it links to the use of pronouns as well. So could we argue that there are, let's say, 100 genders, or is there a line somewhere where we say, no, that's probably the amount of genders that there are?
I mean, I guess you could draw a line, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's not. If it doesn't really affect you, it doesn't really matter. I guess people can identify as what they want. I think it's the best thing is just let people do what they want to do.
Would you agree with that?
Yes, that was my thoughts.
But
exactly.
Basically, if people want to be a certain way or identify as a certain thing, leave them to it and foster that type of culture. Is that right?
Yeah, like it literally does not affect you in any way. So
It
it's
affects
literally fine.
what?
Just leave it, really.
And would you agree with that?
No need to discriminate.
Yeah. So basically, it's part of the equality, anti-discrimination movement. Can I ask?
You comparing their fucking gender to race? No. That's just like.
That's what I understand so far. Do you see any negative consequences or any damage control required at all?
I think it's kind of just encouraging people to get educated, but I think the only negative I would see is like kind of looking down on people for not knowing that much about it. But I think being more warm to people and kind of just telling them about other genders and stuff.
I don't like
that
the fact they
is
use
probably the best thing,
feelings.
rather
They
than
don't
just
use
kind of,
facts.
like, making it be frowned upon. That
They
people
don't say
know that.
I'm a male because of this. I'm a male because of that. Because this is what makes me a female or a male. You don't say that. Yeah, you can have a penis, but your genetics are not fucking. You get me? Female.
This stuff, so you know.
So no direct consequences.
I don't really know. No.
It's a difficult one. I find it's a good one. I checkpoint my own views, so that's why I like to ask people. Okay, and just lastly then, so if I turn into a woman, if that's possible, and I go and compete as a biological man in female sports, that's fine, no problem there.
I think it's kind of a different thing, because I think at that point it's kind of, well, I might be wrong here, but like at that point it's kind of like you should kind of base that thing off of sex rather than gender.
Sure.
Because I think at that point the line becomes very like
sex and gender being two different things.
Yeah, of course. Like I think people that are of the, well, I don't know if that's like saying the male sex. I don't know if that's right, but they should be allowed to compete in their own sex.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense, because with gender, it's kind of it's hard to draw a line with that.
Just say gender is feeling. Like if that's a thing, just.
So I think going off of sex is a bit...
Well, we've made it cultural, haven't we?
Yeah, exactly.
So female XX and male XY. When you, I don't know what the procedure or the process is, but basically what you're saying is that if you identify as a gender, that technically that does impact your biology. That does change your.
He's literally. He just said there's two genders. He's a fucking bro. People are dumb, bro. They are dumb in the head.
Biology, and we're trying to make things fairer. So if that group wants to go and if a biological male wants to punch another female in the face, that's kind of okay.
Yeah, that's I'm not too sure. Yeah, really. Yeah.
Oh, well, obviously, I mean, as a pacifist, I'm a pacifist as well. Closing thoughts. I can identify feelings are more important than facts. What do you reckon? Shared bathrooms. I'm a female, and I don't want to be with a biological male, regardless of how tall his or her high heels are. What do you think?
Wait, can you repeat the question again?
So if I'm a biological female, I don't want a biological male in that safe space. I think that's incredibly. I think personally that's incredibly dangerous. That has very, very. If I'm a female, I don't want a biologically strong male, regardless of how they identify or dress. I don't want them in there with me. Any thoughts on that in closing?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, at that point, it is affecting you. It's affecting whether you're comfortable or not.
Have like trauma that could relate to
exactly
anything like that. But
yeah, sure.
I feel like same gendered, but like all types of gendered bathrooms are fine for.
Yeah.
Straight questions, straight answers. Are there more than two genders?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, there are.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm not aware of that, so it's a bit of an education for me. Can you name them?
So it's a spectrum.
Spectrum.
Yes. So there's two opposites, and then there's everything in between.
So male and female, and then everything in between.
Are biological terms, so it will be man and woman, and then everything in between.
Yeah, no, I agree with him.
Same.
He's put it, yeah.
Pretty well said.
Yeah, it'd be hard to like name like the different genders, because I think it's like how he said, like where you identify in that spectrum.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say the same. Like you can be masculine presenting, you could be like feminine presenting, but that doesn't necessarily mean male, female. It's just how you're presenting yourself.
So that, bro. So come on. Come on. They're like comparing it to sexuality.
And there's so.
It's just how you feel. I like this. I feel like I like men. That's what it's basically a feeling. So how can you allow? How can you allow the feeling of another person change their whole entire biological thing just because the way they feel? And because the way they feel like a female or a male, it allows them to go into like, bro, what?
So much in between.
But where do we draw? Or the line. If I hold the door open for a woman, that's misogynistic, and let's face it, that's pretty toxic, isn't it? Or am I just being chivalrous? Now, that's one of a million of examples. So where do we draw the line?
In presenting, but that doesn't necessarily mean
What did he
male,
say?
female. It's
I didn't
just
get
how you're
that.
presenting yourself, and there's so much in between.
But where do we draw the line? If I hold the door open for a woman, that's misogynistic, and
Really? I mean, it doesn't matter what gender they are. Bro, it's just polite, innit?
let's face it, that's pretty toxic, isn't it? Or am I just being chivalrous? Now, that's one of a million of examples. So where do we draw the line?
I don't know. I think drawing, because like you're drawing, it's drawing line of behaviors, I guess.
You're talking about people's behaviours. You're talking about their motivators.
Yeah, but is that related to like someone's gender identity? Is that correct? I don't think that's.
I don't think it is related. I don't.
So why are they going back on their thing? It's a trend. It's a trend. The internet is enforced this on people. There is multiple genders, but you don't support your argument. Like what? How are you gonna say that? Is to do with it's to do with what's it called? It's to do with behavioral whatever retete, and then you're talking about. Then you're talking about you're saying it's that, and then you're saying that there's more than one gender. It doesn't
I
make
think
sense.
it is. I think people are people, and I think we're using. I think potentially with the argument we're using the idea of gender to almost unify us under the same umbrella, but we're biologically we're very. Biologically, sorry, we're very different.
Yeah.
All right, I'll just scroll now. Sorry. We'll wrap it up, guys. Trans kids, should we be pushing it on the parents? If an 8-year-old wants to become convert trans, I don't really know what the word is. Should we be push? Is that okay? Should we be normalising that? If an 8-year-old says I want to be an 8-year-old boy says I want to be a girl,
normalize it, but also ensure that the kid has all the support they need, including psychological and psychiatrical if needed be.
Evaluation.
Yeah, so just make sure it's their own ideas, because I do believe children are allowed to form their own ideas to a certain extent. But I also realize how easy it is for them to be influenced by stuff. So,
because that's literally 100% of the nature-nurture argument. We are is let's face it, nurture's pretty powerful. So let's face it, we are influenced by everything between. That's why we have 16 and 18 as cut-off points.
Yeah, so those cut-off points are completely arbitrary. Your maturity depends on so much more than just your age. So I think that with the adequate support and support by people that are professionals in this field.
And a process needs to be in place.
Yes.
And anything else from you guys? Trans kids.
I think I agree with what he's saying. I think that you have to have like the option available or like the resources available, but you also have to have like a wide enough net of like information, education, support to fully understand.
At 8, bro, you want me to search up all this biological shit site? Bro, I just want to play with my Lego, man.
Understand like what you're doing, especially as like an 8-year-old kid or like a younger kid.
Yeah, I would just say like encouraging gender fluidity and like, you know, in every stage of life. Like I think that's just, it would make it easier than, you know, you don't see yourself as one thing. You're not one thing or the other. You're just who you are.
Oh, okay, no.
I didn't know he was bold. What the fuck?
Okay. I'm trying my best to put my professionalism hat on. I was the last breed of individual that went to university because you just did. It was just the thing. 2002. Top-up fees, I think, came in 2007. I left in 2006. Southampton alumni. Rugby, boxing, friends, beers, banter, snake bites, some scraps, just education, learning, late nights in the library. I'm finding it difficult to even surmise what the experience was. It just was. I have my own views on the progressive agenda, and there's a lot I could say about that. I am at Sussex Uni, and we've been interviewing people about some topics that are trending and that I think are very acidic and we've been talking to people today. I'm trying to be as professional as I can. I feel sad and sickened. I'm nothing short of desperately sad and sickened and depressed, and I'm not sure whether I'm more upset and on the verge of tears or angry, but I know that I'm clenching my hands right now. I am so pissed off because our institutions, both corporate, M&S, introducing pronouns on the name badges, our Sussex unis, a Redrick uni, it's completely woke, it's completely left-wing, but it's not centrist, liberal, freedom, equality, liberalism. It's radical left. These are not academic institutions. They're indoctrinating, brainwashing camps. They're camps. I am sickened as what I've seen today, and I'm comparing it with just a few miles down the road where I was at Southampton. When we left uni, you went for higher learning, higher education, and I got a 2-1 in an amazing subject that I'm using in my career now. That was it. 1 + 1 = 2. I am sad and I am sickened. I'm depressed and I'm angry at what I've seen. Batshit crazy doesn't even come close to what I've seen from these people today, and they fully believe it. And you'll see from the footage, guys.
It's so funny because they fully believe it, yeah. But then they go back on their argument, basically admitting that they're wrong, and saying that there's only two genders. It doesn't make sense.
They fully believe it. I can morph into anything I want, and that's absolutely fine. And if you question, most terrifyingly, if you question the established norm and their agenda, you are, by definition, they'll use certain words, and I'm not going to use those words, but I've mentioned the point in some of the videos that the outcome that they seek is done and delivered by authoritarianism. So you've got sick, twisted, weird, bizarre, evil logic run via totalitarianism, which is what they probably would stand against, because they want to undo history and want to move forward in this progressive manner.
Any facts. It was just
I'm exhausted. I'm totally depressed.
The fact that the majority of people on this that he was interviewing would say right at the start, are there 3 genders or are there more than one gender? They would say yes, but then they would say that it's a feeling thing, and you're using feelings over facts. Like,
lastly, and most importantly, actually, and I wanted to make sure I got this in. I believe in the cause right now and what we're fighting for. I believe in this heart and soul, and 100% will die on the hill and all that, on the sword and shield and all that good stuff. I feel so sorry for all my brothers and sisters who are conservatives or who are conservative leaning or who are anti, whether you call it anti-woke or you call it anti this radical brainwashing, indoctrinating, degenerate, toxic bullshit, whatever you want to call it. All my brothers and sisters, at university is supposed to be the best days of your life, and I believe there are a huge amount of people at these universities. I've heard from one person say that you had to intro yourself in a class and you had to use your pronouns. That's abuse. That's 100% abuse. 100%. And if you talk to people and you watch the video, you watch the content, guys, these people don't have real arguments. They don't really know what they're talking about. They don't really understand. They don't have a footholding of what they're talking about. It's all just trending cultural Marxism nonsense.
Exactly.
So on a personal note, I really feel for all my brothers and sisters up and down the country who are either liberal, centre-right, or right-wing conservative, and they're depressed, sad, and they're just fucked. They're so alone. They're so alone, and I feel it's supposed to be the best days of your life. You're not a kid anymore, you're not a full adult, and it's the last chance you've got before you go into the big wide world, and it's being fucking bastardised, and that's literally the best word I can think of, is bastardised. It's god-awful, evil, toxic shit. Your years are being wasted. Don't go to uni. Leave it. Go and get a career. Go and get a job. This isn't real life. This isn't real life. They're brainwashing camps. I'm fucking sick to death of it. I'm out.
Yeah, I don't blame him.